Hello, this is Edith Neumeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. I hope you had a chance to look at my my website, which is one word, The Mystery of Adam. I believe it's .com or .org, and you find more information about my book. But today, I want to just say a little bit about my BitChute channel, because I have posted my videos on BitChute as well. So if you get this video on BitChute, then they finally posted it. I have about 3 videos that have not been posted by BitChute. Okay, I have them uploaded on my channel, but they have not been approved. So I'm running into this problem. I like BitChute because I do reach people. My YouTube channel is, I think, shadow banned. I only reach really the people that are subscribed to me. And I'm just not sure if people really see it. So here is my advice for you if you are only watching my BitChute videos. If you want to see more videos, please go to YouTube and check out my channel there. Same name, Great Deceptions of the End Times. Because I do post videos, all my videos there, and they all get uploaded. Okay, that's one thing that I like about YouTube. They upload my videos right away. So, but like I said, BitChute has not done that. There's about 3 or 4 right now of my videos that have not been uploaded. Okay, they have not been uploaded. I don't know what's going on. If any of you knows what's going on, if they're just overwhelmed or what is going on, I cannot imagine they're restricting, videos. But anyways, let me know if you know anything about it. Put it in the comment section if you are watching my video on BitChute. Today, I am going to talk about this statement of Jesus when he said in Matthew 24:34, he said, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." That's what I'm going to talk about today, because people, they mess up this all the time. I mean, all the time. Okay? Now, somebody sent me a video and told me to watch it. One of my German viewers. And it is an English video, and I'm going to put it in the description box simply because I want you to see it. I didn't watch everything because I didn't want to waste my time, really. Okay? I did not want to waste my time. I mean, you pick up on keywords, or I click through and I picked up on key things, and the guy was wrong. The guy is a false teacher. Now, he may not know that he's a false teacher, and I'm sorry to have to say that. Okay? He's not teaching Bible. He is giving you, what would you call it? He's giving you interpretation. His own interpretation. Of course, he gets it from somebody else. Okay? Now, this guy is called Amir Tsarfati. Amir Tsarfati. Okay, I don't know if it's a Jew. It could be a Jew. But he is from Behold Israel. It could be a ministry. And I do not agree with his video. He may be teaching some Bible truth, but this topic about the generation that does not pass away, he is wrong. Or the previous, fig tree analogy. Okay? Now, I have told you before that Matthew is actually more difficult to understand than Luke and Mark. And because Matthew is not always chronological, we see that in that it is chronological. Okay, you can see it's chronological, especially until 29. But then there's a huge gap in between the destruction of the temple and the second coming. Now, it is very important that we do understand the background first, and that's why I'm going to explain that first. And I'm going to use Mark to explain it, because many people, in my last video, I talked about the abomination of desolation. Matter of fact, that is one of the videos that was not approved by BitChute. So if you want to listen to that, you have to go to YouTube. Okay, it's about the abomination of desolation. Okay, many believe, false teachers, and I bet he does too, believe that this abomination of desolation is happening during the 7-year tribulation time. And you know, I do not agree with a 7-year tribulation time. That is all dispensationalism. And I am totally against dispensationalism because it's not biblical. Okay? I have done great studies about Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Mark 13. Okay? And I know for a fact that every one of these gospels, okay, in every one of these gospels, the first part of the chapter is about the destruction of the temple. And we can see this very, very clearly in Luke and in Mark. Now, Mark is very excellent, and that's why I'm going to use him right now. Okay? I'm going to use Mark right now. Because Mark is, Luke is good too. They are chronological, and there is no confusion. Okay? There is no way for confusion, really what it is. Okay? No way for confusion. So that's why I'm going to show you clearly today that all the way, Mark 13, all the way to the darkening of the sun, which tells you that the wrath of God is starting. That is the sign that Jesus is returning. That is the day of the Lord. That is the return of Christ. The Old Testament is very clear that this phrase, the sun goes dark, the moon loses its shine, is for the return of Jesus or the day of the Lord. And everything before that, okay? And I'm going to look right now. In Mark, it is in verse 24. For those days, but in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. That is now the introduction of the day of the Lord, or the wrath of God. Okay? So after the tribulation of those days, that is talking about the time before. Okay? Okay? The time before. Now, most of his description before is what? A description of the destruction of the temple. Now, how do I know that? Because in Mark, the disciples only asked one question. Okay? Actually, it's a A-B question, but it's still one question about one event. And that event is not about the end times. It is only about the destruction of the temple. Okay? So let's look at that. And as he sat upon, and that's verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, over against the temple, Peter, James, and John, and Andrew asked him privately. So in this case, Matthew wasn't even there. They asked him privately. So who do you think knows what Jesus really asked? Peter, James, John, and Andrew. Okay? They know for 100% what Jesus said. Now, Mark, his account of Jesus' life comes from Peter. Okay? Comes from Peter. He learned from Peter. And so Peter told Mark the account of Jesus' life. So I would think that Peter or Mark is much more accurate than Matthew. Also, Luke is a very methodical writer. Okay, very methodical, very orderly. And he got his information as well from the disciples. And he also wrote only one question. And this is what they ask. So we have two writers that ask one question, and only Matthew is asking actually about two events. Here it is. Tell us, when shall these things be? Okay? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? What are they questioning about? They're questioning him about the destruction of the temple, because that's what Jesus talked to them about. Okay? The destruction of the temple. Because it starts out, Jesus answered and said unto him, seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Okay? That's what he told them. You see this? They will not stand anymore. And they, of course, ask, when will that happen? Okay? And then he starts explaining every sign that will happen before the destruction of the temple. I mean, methodical down every sign that will happen. Until, okay, where is it? I'm going to look. Okay, 14, verse 14. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not to, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that are in Judea flee into the mountains. And you can continue what they're supposed to be doing when they see these signs. Okay? This is totally applying to the destruction of the temple, which Jesus addressed at the beginning. And the disciples only asked questions regarding the destruction of the temple, not the end times. Now, after that, of course, he probably talked about his return, because then he says, after the distress of those days. And he says there will be distress during this time. But the distress didn't stop with the destruction of the temple, people. The distress continued. They were not just persecuted before the destruction of the temple, but they were persecuted afterwards as well. So the distress or the tribulation continued. Okay? This is what Jesus talked to them about on the Mount Olive. That's what it says. Okay? Read the whole thing. Until verse 24. But in those days after the tribulation. Okay? And he doesn't talk about the 2,000 year of tribulation the saints went through. Okay? He doesn't. He kind of summons it up that after the tribulation, which started when Jesus died, all the way to the time the church is taken out or the rapture happens. Now we can go to Matthew, because now we have set the stage, and that's exactly what you need to be doing. You cannot study Matthew first. Okay? You cannot study Matthew first. It's impossible. because Matthew is not chronological. Because see, everything is chronological until, let's say, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened. That's what we just read. Okay, then that's still chronological. Even though immediately after the tribulation is a long time. Okay, long time, 2,000 years. But then he goes into the Son of Man is appearing after the wrath of God. He sounds his trumpet, and the angels will gather the elect, which is not the church. They gather the 144,000 sealed in Revelation 7. That's who they're elect. That's who they're gathering. Okay, Jesus will take out his bride. Jesus himself. No angels will gather anybody. No, Jesus personally will come and pick up the bride. That is what custom is. He's not sending, his servants to pick up his bride. No. The bridegroom will always come and get his bride. You need to understand that. Okay? But then he goes into, after that, he will go into 32. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. It's a parable. When its branches is yet tender and buddeth forth leaves, ye know that summer is right here. This fig tree is not dead. Okay? This fig tree lives. It's a live fig tree, and you're supposed to be using it as an example. You can tell the signs of the fig tree what season it is. So you should also see the signs of the season of the coming of the Son of Man or the destruction of the temple. Any sign you should recognize. Okay? But I think specifically the signs of the destruction of the temple. Why? Because that was a very horrible time. And if the Christians would have not listened, they would have been killed. Not one of the members of the Church of Jerusalem would have survived if they would have not listened to what Jesus said and the warning signs that he gave them. Okay? He gave them these warning signs. And you can read them again all the way from the beginning to verse 23. Those are the warning signs. But he gave these warning signs to whom? To the disciples. The generation of the disciples. Okay? And so there is where this whole thing is not chronological. Because now he is saying, okay, you are supposed to watch just like you're watching the fig tree and you know what time of the season is. So you watch the signs of the times. So you know what time it is. So what is coming. And then he says in 34, he says, it is in 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Okay? So what generation is he talking to? He says, this generation. Who is he talking to? When he's saying this generation, he can't talk to the fig tree. The fig tree is only an example for us to recognize the signs. It is not, and a lot of people, and this guy said it too, this Amir. This Amir said it, that this is a symbolic representation of Israel. Israel came back to life. No, this is a fig tree, not an olive tree. Okay? Not an olive tree, it's a fig tree. This fig tree is not an example, doesn't stand for Israel. It's not coming to life. Israel is dead. I know there was a one time when Jesus saw the fig tree and he cursed it. And people take that as an example of Jerusalem. He cursed actually the Jews. Okay, cursed the Jews. But this is not the case here. This is just a fig tree that he's using as an example that we should recognize the signs of the time. Okay? Israel. Okay, people. Israel. 10 tribes of Israel are gone. Okay? 10 tribes of Israel are gone. They're not even here anymore. They mix totally under the Gentiles. Right now, we only have Judah with Benjamin. Okay? That's all we have right now. So, it's not all of Israel. But both kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, they were divorced by God. Okay? If you don't believe it, please write me a note, because I can show you where he divorced both of them. Israel, the kingdom of Israel, and the kingdom of Judah. He divorced them. A divorced husband cannot remarry his wife, especially if she committed adultery. When she commits adultery, she's actually supposed to be stoned. Okay? Killed. Now, God gave them a divorce decree because he was kind to them. But nevertheless, he divorced them. So they cannot come back again as the wife of God. They're divorced. They're sent away. Their contract, the covenant is gone. Okay? They broke the covenant. Doesn't exist anymore. Now you need to understand that, because I know these people. So yeah, these all these tribes, they are divorced. Okay? Judah and Israel. And so when you are divorced, you cannot remarry. Okay? You cannot remarry. Under the law of Moses, a husband cannot remarry his wife. It would be an abomination, or what, it would be, it would be, I think, an abomination. So anyways, it would be against God. So even God cannot do that. So how in the world then can Israel or Judah be reconciled with God? Only the same way everybody else is reconciled, and that is through Messiah. They have to accept Messiah as their Redeemer. And since the Messiah died, they now again can accept him as a husband. Okay? Because it is when the husband dies, then the wife is free again to marry another. So she can remarry him. But only under the new covenant, which is Messiah. And this is what the Jews need to do right now. Just like everybody else. Paul makes that very clear. He is bringing the gospel to the Jews first and the Gentiles as well. Okay? The gospel was given to the Jews by Jesus, by the disciples. 7 years, this last year of Daniel, the gospel was preached only to the Jews. And they rejected him. And when they rejected him, after that last week that was left over in Daniel's 70 weeks, the gospel went to the Gentiles. That's what Paul did. That's how Paul came into this whole thing. And they said, we will still continue to preach to the Jews. You go to the Gentiles. Okay? But the 70 years of Daniel was over 3.5 years after Christ died. And they stoned Stephen. And who stoned Stephen? It was caused by Saul or Paul. See, it's kind of strange. But he really caused this to happen. That the time of the Jews was over. The times of the Hebrews was over. Okay? It was over. Now their time was over before. They were divorced before. They could come back only. They only had 70 years left to bring forth Messiah. Only to bring forth Messiah. Okay? It's very important to understand. And that's when the 70 years were over. And now, Paul always went to the Jews first. He went to the synagogues first. And when he was rejected by them or there, he also met believing Gentiles that took him in. But the Jews, most of the Jews, rejected him. Okay? They rejected him. So then eventually he decided he's going to go to the Gentiles. Period. Okay? That's how it went. But going back to Matthew 24, who this generation is. Okay? That's what we need to now figure out. If this is not the generation today, has nothing to do with the fig tree. Nothing whatsoever. Okay? Because no fig tree comes back to life. When we're talking about, when Jesus said that the branches that don't bring fruit will be cut off, he's not talking about the whole tree dying. He's only talking about the branches being cut off that are not bringing fruit. And that is exactly all branches who don't bring fruit, who are not accepting Jesus as Messiah, will be cut off because they're not connected with the Holy Spirit. They're not bringing the fruit of the Holy Spirit. This is what he's talking about. And instead of those Jews or Hebrews that do not bring fruit, they will have the Gentiles propped in. Okay? He is the stem. He is the stem, and the juice comes in through the roots, from God, and it flows into the branches. And if the branches are not connected correctly, they will not bring the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And they'll be cut off. And the wild olive branches will be plugged in. Okay? That's what God is talking, that's what Jesus is talking about. This has nothing to do with this fig tree here. Nothing. It's just talking about fig tree, and use the fig tree as an example so we can tell the time better. Okay? The signs of the time. So now again, in 34, who is the generation, people? He says, this generation. It's the generation he's talking to. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. He's telling this to the disciples, this generation, the disciples' generation. And that is exactly what happened, people. A generation is 70 years. And these 70 years were over when the destruction of the temple happened. Yep. The abomination of desolation. That was the end of a generation. Exactly. You don't have to guess. But do you know what we're having? We are having a lot of false teachers coming into our churches and our seminaries and confusing the people. And this person is absolutely a false teacher. I don't know if he knows it, but obviously he is a Zionist. The way he is talking about, he's a Christian Zionist. Okay? He thinks that God established Jerusalem or Israel. No, he didn't. He can't do it. It would be an abomination if he would take back his a divorced wife. It would be an abomination. Can't do that. Okay? Read about it. Okay? Matter of fact, I'll put some of these things on the bottom because I don't have them in front of me right now. And one of them says, it would be terrible, a terrible thing. Okay? It would destroy the land even if a man would do that. Okay? You cannot do that. You're defiling the flesh if you would take back your divorced wife. The only reason why they can really come back to God is because Jesus died, and they have the same opportunity to come back to Jesus, the very same opportunity as everybody else. Okay? It's everybody else. But this generation is the generation of Jesus, of the disciples. Okay? And he's talking about the time before the destruction of the temple. That was a very horrible time. And I believe in this video that I did, the abomination of desolation, I believe I put a video underneath there, or actually a link to a free book, The Destruction of Jerusalem, by, I don't remember who it was, but I think I may just add that link on the bottom of this video as well. Okay? I will check it. Maybe I didn't even put it there. But there's an excellent book, and it's written a long time ago, and he describes it very clearly. Josephus is the one that described in detail what happened before the destruction of the temple in the Wars of the Jews. In detail. In this little booklet, the guy pulled out all the important things and observations of Josephus, that in regards to what Jesus was saying in Mark, Matthew, and Luke. Okay? So, anyways, read these again. This generation, there is no doubt. I know it is confusing because it comes at the end of Jesus' return. Okay? How does he continue that? Oh, okay. Then afterward, see, that's another thing is, after this, then he describes actually the rapture. Okay? He says in 36, but of the day and the hour knoweth no man, no, not even the angels in heaven, but only the Father. Here is clearly giving you now a sign that he's talking about the rapture. The bridegroom picking up his bride. The Father only knows it because he only knows when the rooms are finished. Remember the marriage ceremony, the Hebrew marriage ceremony. Okay? The bridegroom goes, prepares his rooms for the bride. He comes back, gets the bride, puts her in the marriage chamber. Okay? And then only the Father will tell the bridegroom when he can return for the bride and when the rooms are finished. And this is what he's referring to right here. But the day and the hour, nobody knows except not even the angels, but only the Father. Okay? Only the Father. So he's telling you, this is now instructions about the rapture. But this rapture is not coming after Jesus has returned and gathered his elect. So this part has to come prior. We know that the rapture happens before the wrath of God, so it needs to happen prior to the sun going dark. Okay? You see how confusing that is when you are not understanding the correct order of things? And only Mark and Luke can really give you a better understanding of the correct order. I mean, that's not everything. They're not going to tell you everything. Because they're not talking about, Jesus right there does not talk about the rapture. Okay? He leaves it out for some reason. I don't know what the reason is. Okay? And then later on, Matthew adds this saying of Jesus about his second coming. Okay? Maybe Jesus didn't want anybody to know when the rapture is really happening. Maybe he didn't want them to know that, because they had no idea. See, they thought that Jesus would come back in their lifetime. That's what they thought. So they knew clearly when he said, this generation shall not pass away, because they thought he would be coming back in his lifetime. And they thought that the destruction of the temple was in connection with his second coming. But he wasn't. So anyways, read this again. These are all interesting things. Do you have any question? Please let me know. Okay? Please let me know. I'm really, really thankful for BitChute posting my videos. And I'm sure they have a lot of people wanting to post and probably not having enough workers to do what needs to be done. So I do understand, but again, I just wish they would post all my videos. I hope this video will be posted. Anyways, let the Holy Spirit guide you always, because that's what you need. You will not understand this stuff if you're not connected to the Holy Spirit.